finally, we have the contract for, between Delfest LLC and the Commissioners for rental of fairgrounds for years 2018 through 2022. It's been much discussed, radio, television, newspaper, internet, wherever. And anyway, it's here for your consideration, and I recommend its approval.
Great.
I'll make a motion, will you approve, accept?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are 2 copies, one which will be for each party for all 3 commissioners to sign each.
And we will also be signing again next Friday.
Or watching the McCurry side.
Thank you, sir.
And before we move on, I do think it's important that there's an explanation given of why this has taken so long. And I think that the public just deserve that. And this started when? December 15th in this boardroom, when one commissioner announced a 5-year deal been signed. And that was surprising since we hadn't discussed it, but it was good news, and I was happy to hear that we had a new 5-year contract. That turned out not to be true. Later we found out, despite our tourism director telling us her intention to retire, one commissioner took it upon himself that the county would reverse course and the tourism contract would not be put out to bid. He didn't tell his fellow commissioners that, but that promise was made to Delfest. I spoke to the press nearly 2 weeks later and said the tourism contract would be put out to bid. In fact, the RFP was already done and finished and completed. Because of that, I've been bashed, trashed, and said I've been anti-Delfest. And that simply isn't true. It's never been true, and it isn't true today. I've been happy to support the festival in every vote, statement, public pronouncement, public and private, as is every single person in this building, including Mr. Epperly. 3 months later, that same tourism contract out to bid was passed unanimously by this board. We have one commissioner who has continuously told Delfest that we are not supportive of them, knowing that it's not true. My reputation with them has been tarnished, has been poisoned, so much to the fact that Mr. Strickland still has not spoken to me today. And I'm happy to change that. I don't think Mr. Strickland or the McCurrys have an axe to grind with myself, Allegany County, or any individual. And it's unfortunate they've been misled for so long, and it's taken all this time to do that. I'll add this. We could have set up a meeting earlier that was not chosen to do so. We could have pushed back against the false narrative that people in this building, staff, the president of the Board of Commissioners were against Delfest. We chose not to do so. We could have pushed back against the false narrative that somehow after 10 years Delfest was getting a bad deal. We chose not to do so. We could have pointed to the $47,000 in internet upgrades, agreed to unanimously. We chose not to do so. The $2,400 for an ad in American Airlines magazine, again, we chose not to do so. And again, it continues tonight. Will Jake vote for it? Will he vote against it? Will he sign it? Will he show up on November 3rd? All of which are false. They've been false since the beginning. And once again, it continued this week. On Monday, all 3 commissioners, our director of public works, our attorney, we sat there and made changes to the contract. And purposefully, I said okay, I said sure. I agreed with what the other commissioners said. One commissioner led the discussion on the request for $25,000 for electrical upgrades. Mr. Kale was told by Roy Carter that they believed that was their expense. Mr. Rudd said that they had put it in at the last minute, expecting to get it, and didn't think they'd have any pushback. It was agreed by the majority of the Board of Commissioners to take it out, and I agreed with them. Yet Tuesday morning, 16 hours later, the next morning, when Mr. Rudd was talking to Mr. Strickland, Turned out that one commissioner had already promised that to Delfest. And more incredibly, it was blamed on me, that I was the one who demanded that $25,000 reimbursement be taken out. And time again, when given the chance to resolve this, it hasn't happened. The fire hasn't been extinguished, it's been fanned. And I'll just say this, Commissioner Valentine, I've lost a lot of respect for you since last December. I don't expect an apology. I don't think that's gonna happen in politics, but I do think you owe an apology to the staff of this building and for the citizens of Allegany County that's had to put up with this melodrama for the last 11 months.
Well, I would suggest you get your facts right, Mr. Shade.
Gary.
Anything that's not true about that, we can check the email, we can check all of it, Bill.
Get your facts straight. We can have a private discussion about this.
Well, you know what?
Anytime.
We had a discussion on Monday in private. The Board of Commissioners decided to do that in private without any notes, any recordings, any documents. And why was that? Because blame could be shifted easier. When we're up here, when we're in public, it's a lot harder to hide. It's a lot harder to change the narrative. And it's not true, it's never been true. And it's insulting what's going on in Allegany County for the past 9 months. And I'm happy to have Delfest here. I want them to have a second festival here. I think Delfest is happy to be here, but they've been misled, they've been misinformed, and it stops tonight. And I look forward to meeting Mr. Strickland next Friday. I look forward to meeting Del himself for the second time. I've met him once, and who was that set up by? That was set up by Dave Everly. Dave Everly, when we painted the train car. So to say that Allegany County is somehow against Delfest or doesn't want them here, we're happy to have them here. We want them here. We want them to expand here. We want them to invest here, and we want to be part of that solution. But all this political stuff, please look past that. Please look past what's going on and in the games and all that stuff, because it's not right and it's not the government that you deserve. Thank you. Item number 3, we have Ms. Janelle Mayer with Allegany